Hello, everybody, and welcome to StatCheck episode 54. This episode is titled WTC Hype Approval Thread to go with the WTC, all the cool stuff that's happening with that being in starts 2 weeks today, basically. And that is both exciting and terrifying in equal measure. I'm Innes. I'm joined by Nathan. We were meant to be being joined by an Anthony, but unfortunately, Anthony is currently experiencing power cuts. So we are going to be getting started without him. If he or Jeremy are able to join partway through, then we will obviously they'll jump in with us. But until then, you have myself and Nathan. So we're going to just start off with easy stuff. We're going to talk through the general, go through the stats, and then we're going to do some general talky stuff about 40K, probably mostly about WTC, because that's most of the exciting stuff in 40K right now for both myself and Nathan. First of all, though, how you doing, Nathan? You weren't here last week. How has your last couple of weeks been?
I'm doing great. I've been doing a lot of interviews with Tomek and Contact Loss for interviewing all the WTC captains. Then I've been doing a lot of practice with Eldar for this weekend's GT. I fly out to Ottawa on Friday, where Jeremy's going to pick me up, and we're going to drive out to Petawawa for Capital Clash. So I've been tuning Eldar lists and then practicing Eldar lists, basically, because list submission was Saturday last week, unless an FAQ drops, in which case we will do a list resubmission date on Friday, I guess, is what we were told. So I may or may not fall. I definitely won't fall into a giant shameful list spiral again, where I like message everybody that I know asking if I've lost my fucking mind.
Presumably the answer will be yes.
I mean, the answer will be yes. But now I've decided that I'm just going to message Innes with my terrible thoughts, because at least Innes has like the ability to ask like a couple leading questions to make me feel like I find my own answers. But yeah, that's about it. It's just me apparently playing Necrons mostly for practice, and a lone Shadow Sword that fucking blew up my Wraith Knight with 24 mortal wounds turn one, which was kind of amusing but also terrifying at the same time. That's about it. That was my week and my weekend. I'm super hyper excited to do War Masters in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, that starts 2 weeks today as well. Oh my god.
And then
a list submission is Friday, dude.
Yeah. I don't even know what my list is going to be. I'm borrowing the list from somebody playing at WTC, and I'll have a list like probably
I'm still not even
Thursday.
decided if I'm playing like the same list in singles and teams, or if I'm like going to pretend that I respect some armies that I'm just not respecting in my teams list at all. It's going to be an interesting time. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm very excited to see what kind of random army that I've never played before that I'm going to be playing with a week of practice.
I could borrow Brian's Eldar for WTC for War Masters. Yeah, that's an idea. Just war crime it up with some people. That'd be great.
I mean, GSC or Eldar are probably two perfectly good options.
Yeah, my GSC would probably not get approved. Too many Princeton conversions that are not really the right size. They do the job for government work when nobody's paying attention, but the level of scrutiny applied by the WTC modeling channel, I'm kind of limited in what I can really bring.
Yeah, it's great. So, I've been reading that thread partially for amusement purposes because like nobody follows instructions, but also because there's like really normal singles stuff that would get approved by like most NETO on the planet that just won't get approved by WTC people. Like somebody was like, here are some converted or like kit bashed exaction squads. I was like, oh man, those look like exaction squads. Those would be great. And then immediately afterwards, the WTC people come out and they're like, those are just Tempestus Scion bodies. So they're denied. And I was like, oh no. Oh no.
Neil is asking if I'm going to put forward an 11th hour captain's vote against the modeling restrictions. No, because they're still less stupid than last year's ones, where they were going to be like, hey, so all of your Void Weavers need the crew modeled, but like not just the guy on the gun, but like the two guys that hang off the wings need to be there as well. And they were like, everybody needs all of those. And I was like, hold on a goddamn minute. Maybe we shouldn't make every Elder player buy a new army. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. I am not broadly on board with the way that they have handled things this year, but it's teething problems of a new edition and towering mattering, model height being a lot more important this year. Like, I understand why they're being a lot more sensitive about it, but it certainly is causing problems. The fact that they're being like every Tau player needs to have their drones like next to the units like drives me nuts, because I don't know a single goddamn person who gives a toss about them. But sure, I guess. But if you want proof that the average 40k player cannot read, go and check out that channel, because I don't think anybody's read the submission guidelines for how to submit models, up to and including my team when I ask them to give me their requests. So it do be like it is. As for myself, because we're still on our week of 40k bit, I have had a very busy week. I have played a absolute ton of Warhammer, which is kind of the point. But I played a bunch of Tyranids, which was really cool. I wanted to see how the army worked, to get some ideas of it, because I'm fairly settled where my Deathwatch is at for WTC. Big secret that I'm playing Deathwatch. I honestly couldn't care less at this point. So I gave Nids a bunch of playtests, because I wanted to see if there was any list in there to have a look for some other options, and came to my own conclusions there that I can talk about later. But it's been super interesting. I managed to jam like 6 games with them, and then also play some games with Deathwatch. And then obviously just been doing a bunch of coaching stuff on the side. I say on the side as if it's not my like actual normal job. But yeah, it's been hectic. Neil says that rule that had been in place since 2018. Yeah, Neil, but drones used to be actual models. Now they're tokens. And I think the idea of being like, you must have the actual tokens model, not just like, I would be okay if you were just like, you're going to have like a stack of like tokens that says what drones there. But having to actually have the drones there, it just seems psychotic. And every type player is just going to put them in the side, and they're going to ask their opponent at the start of every game if they have to put them out. And they're going to say no. And then no type player is going to actually put the drones out unless the ref walks by and is like, you need to put your drones out. And they'll be like, sure, buddy. And then they won't do it. And then they'll get a yellow card, and it'll be very unreasonable. And I'll be very mad if that happens to my type player, if we have a type player.
I don't know. I think like the funniest thing to me has always been that there was a point where WTC was like, all your transports need to have like the riders on them. And I was like, it's a good thing I'm not going, because I purposely model all of my Eldar transports to not have hangers on, because they always fucking break every single time. Whenever I put them on raiders, they would immediately crack off and fall, no matter what I did.
Also, Ishik says hi. Hi, Ishik. It's a WTC episode, so hi. I didn't think you covered. I didn't think you watched 40k content. I thought you were too busy like having private islands and stuff. Anyway, that's too much of an in joke.
Also, apparently, my contact loss content is leaking into here, because now we have bird questions.
Bird questions are very important.
Yeah. But we'll bring up bird
Nathan
questions.
Just mentioned that my mic is having static, and what that actually is this mic is my actual new mic, which I managed to get working. Is sensitive enough that it was picking up me playing with a bit of plastic. So
I was like, why was everything fine during the pre-show? And everything was fine. Now every time you talk,
man, my ADHD is just struggling with not having a thing to do. I'm like, I could check my phone. I can't tab out to Discord, because if I open Discord, that's what breaks my mic. So we're just gonna roll with it.
So instead, we're going to talk about stats now, because I want to make everybody.
And what that means is Nathan's going to talk about stats, and I'm going to go for a nap, because honestly, hey, we are saved by the bell just in time for stats. Jeremy is here. Hey, Jeremy, how you doing?
Good. I lay down for a nap, and my wife got home later from work than we were expecting. So I am
Jeremy modeling the living. Very, very similar to last year's Canada shirt. So this might be the first year I don't try and get a Canada shirt.
We do have a version of it in black.
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be good enough to swap for one of the Scotland shirts this year. Our shirts are real nice.
So. Yeah, we'll see.
I don't know. I'll have some extra staff shirts if you want to swap for those, basically. I don't know. They're jerseys.
Jeremy,
before
we move on to stats, how was your week in 40, or your 2 weeks in 40K, because you also weren't here last week? How was your last couple of weeks in 40K, Vim?
Last weekend I did absolutely nothing. It was lovely. I actually took a break from 40K, because I've been running a little ragged, in all honesty. People know that I've been fairly sick for the last few weeks, but 2 weeks ago I was at Tacoma, and I got to witness the first super major of 10th edition, and that was so much fun. Like genuinely just amazing to see how many people were coming out to enjoy the hobby, play the game, and see how it was being received by the community. Yeah, it was a ton of fun. And yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I haven't really played very much 40K in the last 2 weeks, as much as I would like to.
You prepping for Clash as well, or are you wrapping that one?
I am the head judge for Clash this weekend. So yeah, I've got anyone who is. If anyone wants something to do this weekend, we do have a few tickets left. But
let me check the calendar.
You already have a golden ticket. You don't need to come.
Yeah, but that means I can win it and pass it on to Nathan.
Why would you need to do that, though? You can beat me any day. You don't need to beat me specifically at this event. Doesn't
That's
seem like
true.
a
I also
thing you do.
definitely can't fly to Canada this weekend. That's a little excessive, but
No, probably not. But yeah, just outside of my city, about an hour east of here, we're running Capital Clash. I think we're up to 70 players now. We are giving away 4 golden tickets, which don't ask me how we got it. And it's coming down to the wire for getting everything ready because we are using fully updated WTC layouts. Dan, one of the sponsors of this show and of Team Canada from the Red Dragon, has been working his butt off making sure that all of the terrain has been updated, which also includes flipping something like 40 small ruins that were built the other way from our terrain layouts for last year. For 9th edition, so he has
we
been
didn't
breaking
have
them
any
apart
runes
and
that were the
rebuilding.
other direction.
No, because we didn't have WTC terrain previously. We had WTC style terrain. Now we can run any WTC layout that we want, medium style. We can't run the heavies because that would require a lot more 3-story ruins. But from a singles perspective, it means that we can actually do all of this. Yeah, there's just been a lot of last minute things. Like yesterday, I had to run out, and again, apologies to John for this. I had to run out to our printer to pick up table numbers and player brochures. Probably in another day or so, I'll be running out to pick up secondary cards because we had those made up for everyone. Yeah,
Nice.
So I've been kind of running a little ragged, and that's why I lay down for a nap and forgot to set a timer.
That's fair enough. Anyway, with that, let's move on a little bit to the stats, which is the bit where I get to shut up and go for a nap for a bit because the stats are that boring. But because they are important, I'm going to shut up and let you guys actually have the important conversation.
Sure. I mean, we don't want to talk about them too long because I think people are pretty aware that the meta is kind of on fire. I know that people kind of want probably some positivity, which will be in the second half of this show where we talk about WTC and how hyped we are all to be in Mechlin and how hyped we are to do various activities at that point and how hyped we are to do also play at Clash next weekend or get judged by Jeremy next weekend, which are both fun things. And then Pizza Bagels has a question.
It's not a question. It's just a thing I thought was funny. Don't be distracted by me pressing buttons. It's fine.
God damn it. All right. So we're just going to talk about this last week, and then I'm going to talk about why the meta is on fire, and then we're going to kind of move on from there, and I'm sure that Jeremy will have some stuff to say as well because that'll be fun. This last week, I don't think anybody is terribly surprised by most of at least 3 members of the top 5. 2 of the members of the top 5 might be a little surprising for some people. Eldar are number 1. They made up 11% of the meta. They had a win rate of 71%. They won 2 events, had 9 top 4s and 16 top 10s for an overall overrep of 4.11, which is honestly a grotesquerie when you make up 11% of the meta. That's ridiculous. That means they made up 44% of whole positions, which is real bad, folks. They made up 44% of top 4s over the weekend. We're going to talk a little bit more about how that looks when you look at all of 10th edition together in just a minute. Gene Stealer Colts were in second. They have gone up in meta representation a few times over 10th edition, are currently at 5.3%. They had a 68.2% win rate. They won 2 events, had 4 top 4s and 10 top 10s for an overrep of 3.81. So also good old Harlequin style numbers coming out of Gene Stealer Colt, for fun and profit. In third place is probably the first of the 2 surprises of the top 5, which is Chaos Space Marines, who made up 4.3% of the meta. They had a 56.1% win rate. 1 top 4, 3 top 10s, and a 1.15 for overrep, so roughly balanced. So they were doing okay. Imperial Knights were in 4th, 6.6% of the meta, a 50. Why is this slightly out of order? Did I hit the wrong? There we go. Imperial Knights were actually in 3rd. They had a 57.2% win rate, but they didn't win any events. They didn't get any top 4s, but they did get 3 top 10s. So they ended up with a net 0 for overrep, despite winning a bunch of their games. And then
that's because GSC and Eldar are holding all of their overrep.
Yeah, which is something we're going to talk about in a minute, really. Tyranids were in 5th place. They had 17 players, 3.9% of the meta. a 55.2% win rate, 1 event win, 2 top 4s, and 3 top 10s for a 2.58.
Hell
Although
yeah, let's go Nids.
that number is definitely inflated by the fact that there's not a lot of Tyranids players at the moment playing the game. And then at the bottom, in no particular order, actually they're in an order from worst to not as bad.
In no particular order, besides the order they're in.
Yeah. Death Guard, who had a 30.2% win rate. Sisters of Battle, who were at a 34.4. Grey Knights, who were at a 34.6. Drukari, who were at a 36. And then Leagues of Votann, who crawled out of the worstest faction and are at a 37.5% win rate.
So, of note, some of those factions have less than half the win rate of Eldar.
Yes.
Cool.
And the thing that I really wanted to bring to people's attention, and something that you can look at the dashboard if you look at all the stats together, is the overrep, like in a set, is basically there's like 3 factions with a stranglehold essentially on every single top 4 placement that exists. So I'm going to ask you, Ennis, how many of 140 total top 4 placements do you think belong to the top 3 factions?
I'm gonna guess it's something absurd like 105, which would
Not
be
quite.
which would be 75%.
Almost. We're at 88 out of 140. So it is
more than half
lot.
belongs to 3 factions. Yeah.
Yeah, just 3 factions essentially have almost 2/3, probably about 2/3 of all, roughly. If you can do this math in your head real quick, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no,
I'm not that good at
it's
it.
a lot. I don't.
Yeah.
It's
And we have 34 GT-sized events currently in the dashboard. I think we have 35 in the Excel sheet. 5 factions who are not in the top 3 have 1 GT-sized events or bigger that we track, and they've each won 1. So 20.
Like, first of all, hell yeah to the Nids player this weekend. So proud of you, buddy.
So depending on whether or not you're looking at our Excel sheet or you're looking at the metadata dashboard on StatCheck, you might see 29 or 30 GT wins that are basically in 3 hands as far as factions go. Most of those hands are Eldar hands because they've won 16 of those. So almost half of all GT wins since the start of 10th have been won by Eldar. So definitely powerful but not dominating performance from Eldar.
Strongly powerful but not dominating is 80% or more, right?
Definitely 80% or more. We're not quite there yet. We're at like 70.
Yeah, no, I mean like percent of GTs. Like if you're not winning 4 out of 5 GTs as Eldar, like are you are they even really that good? Like that's 1 in 5 GTs that aren't being won by Eldar players. And if you're not good enough to make that one of the 5 you're one that you're at, like isn't that on you, really?
A little bit. We're definitely going to watch me play the other Eldar players, having not yet practiced the Eldar mirror. Maybe I'll try to do that this week and watch me get like terribly owned by the faction that I'm playing. Just a thing that could happen. But when we're talking about the meta being in a bad state,
sorry, what were the other 2 factions that are strangleholding the meta just before we?
GSC and Imperial Knights, who are at like 7 and 6 GT wins or something like that. It might both be.
It's incredible because Imperial Knights aren't even good, but like power to them.
I mean, they've won 2 GTs so far. Yeah, 7 for Genestealer Cult and 6 for Imperial Knights on the dashboard. So those are the 2 factions who have been able to win multiple GTs in the current environment. So when people are in the competitive community, and especially on this podcast, are like kind of feeling negative about the meta as a whole right now, I would tell you that the meta is kind of on fire.
Just
and that the people that are holding the Molotov cocktails that have lit that on fire, just 3 people, one who has 4 arms.
Or 3, like it really depends on the model. Like most of them only have 3 arms. Like this is blatant like discrimination.
Sorry.
The Emperor has 4 arms. The Genestealer, the Cultists have 3.
Sorry, I don't want to talk about third arms throwing Molotovs too much on the channel. It seems like too much.
Yeah, you might upset the French.
Or Jeremy, who seems to have clicked off his camera again.
Yeah, Jeremy's Canadian. That's basically French.
Don't tell the French or the Canadians that.
It's fine. I don't think any French or Canadian people listen to this podcast.
Otherwise, it's like the other thing to look at is that when we look at the meta as a whole, since the kind of the balance update, and when we want to talk about balance windows of 45 to 55, you essentially have 3 factions that are above it, and then 1, 2, 3. 10 factions that are in that balance window. And then that means there are about 11 factions that are below that window. So like a full half of the meta is just outside the balance window in the negative direction. There's a chunk of it that's in the middle, and then there's like 3 factions that are just way at the top. And one of the problems that you're hearing about is that people will talk about how if you nerf the top 3, other factions are going to kind of crop up because suddenly there's not this strangle by 3 factions on top 4 placements and GT wins. One of the favorites is Custodes, who are like maybe a couple of S tier nerfs away from popping into their own S tier by themselves. But I don't know.
The fact remains that if you cut the top two factions off, there is a solid vibe check of if you can't kill 10 Lich Guard or 10 Custodian Guard, you can't play the game in 10th edition right now. Like there's just a line. Like if you can't sustain Magnus shooting you or killing those 2 units or an Oath Desolation Marine squad, your army doesn't exist right now. And that's really cool. And I think that's awesome. I think that's a really great representation of, just like single builds in powerful armies. Oh my god, Cat. Dominating the like competitive stratification.
I just like how distracted.
I would trust that cat to balance 40k.
Yeah, I trust that cat to make all balanced decisions moving forward.
It's Stu Black Cat. It's fine.
Yeah, it's Stu Black.
Jeremy, you're muted, by the way. I hope you know that.
I am aware. He's been screaming at me, which is why I've been muted and why my camera keeps getting turned on and off.
I don't think anybody minds if the cat is screaming on air. The cat is just representative of the state of the 40k meta game, unfortunately. Things are... I'm going to distill the stats into a couple words. Things are real bad right now. They're not getting better, and I wouldn't count on whatever happens by the end of July to make it better. We are going to need a slate for this in some sense, and until there is a slate, the game will remain in a state that is playable as long as you aren't trying really hard to be winning games. If you're just here to have the fun, Kenneth is fine. If you're trying to win tournaments, play Eldar or GSC or don't show up. Or get lucky. Like those are the criteria. Be one of the best players on your faction in the world and get lucky, or play Eldar or GSC and be a player of Eldar or GSC. That's kind of the and Knights if no good Eldar or GSC players show up. That's kind of the meta right now. It's a shame. It really is, because the game is generally still pretty fun. I've been enjoying 95% of the games of 10th edition I've played. But
yep, I've got a fun one, and that's the thing. Probably about 90% of the games of 10th I've enjoyed, and that 10% is when there is a massive faction disparity, or
Knights are included at all. Yeah. No. There is no fun games that include Knights. Towering is a mechanic that should not exist. Go away, Jeremy. Don't be a Knight apologist here.
So here's a fun one.
I don't care.
Here is a fun one. The Lone Star Open was this weekend, and Frontline Gaming took it upon themselves to deviate from Games Workshop's rule set, which is unusual for that
8th and 9th edition Frontline Gaming. Yeah.
It's really unique for 9th edition Frontline Gaming, because 8th they set their own. They wrote the ITC mission packs. Whereas 9th, they were like, GW, good, let's just run them. And for the most part, people agreed. But given that there has been a fair amount of challenges with the edition, the Lone Star Open put forward a adjustment to terrain. And it was very simple. It was that towering only worked if you towed into the ruin. So you could not be seen, you could not see with a towering model until you touched that ruin.
Pretty sure we recommended that change like 3 months ago as well. But
it does also mean that they cannot be seen otherwise.
It seems fine. They didn't win, right?
They didn't win. They came close, though. Now, here's the fun question. How much of an impact did that have on the top 3 armies at Lone Star Open, which was a 220-person 6-round event, so there's a decent amount of data available, and Eldari, GSC, and Knights were out in full force at this event.
It's very good for a Wraith Knight. Phantasm becomes even better, but also like Eldar and Abomination for 1,000 reasons. I don't think making the Wraith Knight slightly better on some terrain is that big a deal.
Yeah.
Knights, like, fine. Knights still get vibe checked by all the same things Knights currently get vibe checked by. And GSC, it's like, fine, you can't shoot the Knights, they can't shoot you. Net, who cares?
Yeah. So I'm assuming that Ben J has been jerk. Shout out to him for winning the Lone Star Open after pulling out a nail biter of a game against CSM on stream. That was a really fun game to watch. So overall, since the adjustment came out, which was the initial emergency points increases, which had a fairly minor impact on things, but they hit Eldari and Towering and Indirect. Eldari have had a 69.8% win rate. GSC have had a 65.9% win rate, and Imperial Knights have had a 56.4% win rate. And this is everything except for the Lone Star Open. At the Lone Star Open specifically, Eldari had a 68.6% win rate, so they went down by 1.2%, but really close.
Like that's not really a change.
Yeah, GSC had a 68.4% win rate, which went up by 2.5%. And
sense.
Imperial Knights had a 58.5% win rate, which went up by 2.1%. So the FLG, it's within the bounds, so it's actually fairly close, but it is a large enough sample of games that you can actually say that it was a meaningful change and increase. Josh Johnson, with the FLG towering change, y'all think they should go back to the pre-nerf points? No,
they're still too cheap.
They're still too cheap, and this is the thing. This is with them experimenting on what they can do to address the towering issue. It turns out that when Knight players can just hide their big Knights wherever they want to, and then take advantage of their 10-inch movement to get angles on you, it hurts.
You could remove towering, keep the ones to just reroll 1/1 and 1/1 to wound, and up them 10%, and they'd still be as good as they are now.
I don't think they'd be as good as they are now, but they would definitely be
They would.
They would
lose an
definitely
armor
be
and nothing would
50%.
Mhm.
But yeah, like that change probably is better for the feeling of the game because you can hide more effectively against them. But it highlights the fact that, well, if you can't see them, they're just going to get angles on you anyways.
I think that
you
it
can
is worth
play around them getting angles on you. Like, it's also worth noting this was the first time anybody had played with this rule set. Like, there were going to be people aren't used to playing against Knights they can't shoot, right? Like, that's just a fact of life. The Knight player will adapt to it quicker because they will play more games with it than you will adapting to playing against it. That's just the way this works. It's going to be stronger for the first outset whenever you ever have a change like that for the players playing the armies that receive the direct change.
There's also the new player place terrain change that was in effect for this event as well, right?
Oh yeah, that's true as well. Like Frontline was playing player place, which means it's also basically like not the same game as everybody else is playing.
Correct, which also explains the hike to GSC that you see, because when you can hide on an objective, not be shot on that objective because you can't be seen through terrain, and you can place terrain, protecting that objective every single game, GSC does a lot better.
Yeah, and you don't need any terrain in your deployment zone because you just loan up and one with the darkness everything, so you can just make all your midfield terrain unassailable. Yeah, it seems good.
So what we're saying is that the change is going to have to be a little bit more than just that towering change. We're probably going to have to see more points increases. Hopefully not as many to Chaos Knights, because I don't think Chaos Knights are the problem. When they smacked towering, they definitely smacked Chaos Knights a little bit. Along with some random nonsense that nobody was ever going to play. But such is life.
I want to point out that the thing that still amuses me more than anything is that the Morkanot got hit, but the Gargantuan Squigoth did not.
I think even past that too is like the Corn Loader of Skulls in World Eaters is like,
oh, that was the Corn Lord of Skulls in
to...
both CSM and World Eaters just got like they got hit by a drive-by. It was that moment of what happened there.
Isn't it more expensive in World Eaters as well by like 40 or 50 points?
Yeah, it went up by I think it was 120 points instead of 60 points.
Just a gigantic change.
No, it was 105 it went up by because it was 45 points more.
If that's in charge of World Eaters, it's so much stronger.
Yeah, and it can have a 6-up field in the paint too.
It can. And you can run Angron with it.
Maybe
it doesn't get critical hits on 5s because it's Corn, because it can't Dark Pact.
Yeah, but it only gets to the melee, and who's getting a Lord of Skulls to melee? That doesn't sound like a thing that happens.
No, but you just talked about advanced charging it.
Look, don't question me.
Don't poke holes in his argument by listening to his argument, Jeremy.
How dare you suggest I have
the Gargantuan Squigoth is a really fun one because it has towering and it has firing deck 22.
First of all, thank you, Tim, for money laundering. And Big Squig definitely did something wrong. I don't really care what it is, but it did it wrong.
I will say still that my favorite models from the WTC modeling thread are the
tiny grots, the tiny Stompa grot.
The tiny Stompa, the baby Stompas and the Stompa parents. Those are still the best models that I've ever seen.
Mine will never not be Liam VSLs. trigonometry to determine if his chaos spawn were the right size.
If you
Where
look
he's
at
like,
today's show icon, that's the background to the icon for today is Liam Vissel's trigonometry to prove that the crypt ghouls are appropriate proxies for chaos spawn.
cool.
Didn't the
Right.
brass scorpion go to Legends as well? Somebody was
Look, man,
said
Yeah,
we're going to
that's
talk
why
about
I
Legends
said
in a minute.
rest in peace
So,
to my Anger and a Brass Scorpion dream.
is
All right,
there
let's
anything
talk about
else we
Legends.
would like to finish on with the stats before we move on to some of the other show topics of the week?
Please,
Nah,
no
that's it.
more. Please
Okay.
stop. The meta is dead. We don't need to punch it anymore.
Rest in peace, scouts, baby.
I think they're getting new models. I think
They're
that's
gonna
I
get new
own
models.
so many scouts, and I'm so upset, and I still don't care.
So let's talk about this. We need to explain why F's in chat for Scouts.
What do you mean? Do you mean that like everybody that watches the show isn't also terminally online like we are and has like lives and it relies on us to explain? I can stop playing with that bit of plastic
Occasionally
because it's gonna sound
people-
like static again.
Occasionally, Innes. Occasionally
Okay,
people
so
need an
The
explanation.
basic gist is there was a list of about 20 firstborn units that came out sometime between 1993 and 2014 that got kicked out of Warhammer. They were just like, yeah, you go away. You can pretend to be Outriders now. So everything from all of your land speeders to the Hunter and Stalker kit, which I definitely think is the weirdest one because that kit's like the same age as Centurions.
So the
I
same
think
age as Innes.
Yeah, pretty much. About a century, right? And then the Thunderfire cannon and
The Tech Marine.
attack bikes, the Tech Marine, which also makes I think servitors are going away,
A
which makes me wonder if they're
librarian?
going away for everybody. The basic librarian on foot, yeah.
Who has
Which is,
actually
by the way,
new
a massive
model.
nerf for Deathwatch, so don't worry about that. Yeah, just like a whole swathe of stuff was just like not just cut straight out of the Marines Index for when the Codex comes out, which is a big change. Scouts are gone, and it's so painful because I own so many scouts. I think I have like 30 combat scouts, 30 sniper scouts, and 30 polar scouts at this point. And it's just like I own too many scouts. I don't know what I'm doing with all of them. I only play like 10 of them at a time, but I've got enough to like bury a child in. Is basically.
Yeah.
I don't recommend burying.
I do want to ask.
There's like at least 2 metal sniper scouts in there and a metal talion. Like I wouldn't recommend it, but
I do want to ask Jeremy how he feels about his Ravenwing situation now that like 90% of the Ravenwing book is gone.
Well, see, that's the weird thing is that none of our unique stuff went away.
that means you'll have the Ravenwing Command Squad and the Black Knights and no Bike Squad now.
Yeah, we'll have Outriders, which they kind of cool.
They don't even have 6 attacks each anymore. What's the point?
I know. You can attach for the chaplain, and you can take them in units of 6 now.
And you can give them devastating wounds on their bolters.
I will say the one thing to keep an eye out on is that there's like been a new transfer sheet leaking around the internet that indicates that
Outriders
maybe-
advanced 6. That's their special rule.
Yeah, I
And
know. I'm aware.
They get 4 attacks in combat.
Yeah,
That's a
the
lot.
thing that I'm wondering about, and Derek Douglas actually points this out as well, is what they're going to do about the Talon Master.
In the bin.
Hmm.
Straight in the bin. Doesn't exist. It's not a real unit.
We'll just get a new model for it.
It's an upgrade kit with illusions of grandeur. Like,
Yeah.
fuck off.
So it
deserve to exist.
appears, because someone actually has a handy dandy, this is when every model in the game came out. It appears that the company command is the most recent unit to be discontinued. Because that came out in 2016.
Did it really? Was that not
Yeah.
when they repacked it to include the? They repacked it to include the captain, right? That was what they changed.
That was 2016. That was what they did.
Yeah,
that
was a
when
repack. That wasn't actually a new model. The most
Sure.
recent model was the Hunter Stalker.
Yeah, because that was 2013 for the Hunter and Stalker. It was a 6th edition release.
Yeah, makes sense. Which is a really weird. Like, I feel like getting rid of the 6th edition release. Like for me, anything past 5th edition is like modern 40k. So
Yeah.
it feels really weird to be like, hey, let's just get rid of this model that exists.
No, I agree. I mean, the Assault Squad in plastic was 2015.
Yeah, that got repacked 20. Oh, yeah, that did get redone in 2015, along with the Devastator.
Yeah,
That was when
it was just Assault Squad, Devastator,
Skyhammer
Librarian,
Annihilation
and
Force, that was
Terminator.
when that came out.
Yeah. And I guess technically the Librarian and Terminator armor is now gone because they've given him a new one.
That's not really the same level of gone, though, right? Like that's the updated.
It's a refresh, but yeah, like it's a
I
refresh.
think
on
that guy's still
an
technically
8-year-old
on sale in the
model.
Grey Knight range as well, but
Probably.
yeah. Anyway, it's really weird. It's a big change for the Marine Codex. That's the main thing we're talking about. Obviously, we're talking about this from a competitive 40k standpoint. Losing scouts, losing bikes, it's a ton of options that are going to disappear from Space Marines. Now, obviously, that codex is bloated to high hell. There are 107 data sheets in it at the moment, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say
More than
tentatively
that.
7 of them are useful. No,
It's
just
like
like in
100.
the base index, there's like 100.
Oh, yeah.
There's like 107 plus all the chapter data sheets, I think, is the rough.
I can tell you exactly what that is because I had to go through it.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, like you could scroll for 50 minutes and still be on captains is the kind of general problem. And I think cutting down some of that blow absolutely is fine. I'm hoping that some of the roles that are being replaced like come back. Obviously, scouts are one of the best units in the Marine Index right now. The only reason Death Watch don't play them is because they can't, and otherwise you would see a ton more of them. But they're very good in Gladius. They support things like Gulliman and the Lion very well, providing your lone operative. And them disappearing is a big change for the viability of even just things like those models. And I look forward to seeing if there's a replacement, what the replacement. I'm expecting something similar, like an equal attention Tyranid release wave for Space Marines, where we'll see like 2 or 3 new characters and 4 or 5 new like 3 or 4 new units. Please,
They basically said that, right?
jump melee, jump melee, jump melee, jump melee Primaris is all I want. Just like 15 strikes. I want 15 strike models on foot, just like in my army. I'm begging you, GW, please, and a captain to go with them so I can give them Thief of Secrets. Anyway, no, it's a weird change. I don't mind. I get it. Like it's a bunch of my stuff that isn't useful, but it still probably costs less than my Democarons did for all of it. So whatever.
Yeah, and like someone pointed out, like my Ravenwing, about probably a third of my Ravenwing now won't be fieldable, which happens. And you know what?
Yeah,
that,
I mean,
like,
I own a Votar army that's not fieldable, so like it's not really that different.
Yeah, but you legally could put it in a tournament. You just wouldn't want to.
Legally could do a lot of things. I don't.
I mean, you can legally use all those bikes and things still, right?
Yeah, just using that rider.
They're just Outriders.
Use the attack bike as an invader ATV.
And... I kind of expect that tournaments won't allow it because they're on different size bases.
No,
the war gear's
I would
different.
never. I could
Are
never.
you saying
see...
that the title of this episode that they might not be WCC approved?
They might not be Jeremy approved.
Right.
Like that would be like I don't know. Like
I'm very understanding with conversion approvals for my events. Someone sends them to me, and I'm like, yeah, that seems pretty good. It's unless you can go for it.
Unless you're asking Jeremy in our backstage about what the model policy is, in which case he's like, no, Nathan, no, you got to give me more information. Twice Jeremy strings me along when I'm asking him a question.
The player pack says to submit conversion approvals.
No.
How dare you make him follow the rules?
How dare you make me read the syllabus,
There are no exceptions
Jeremy?
for anyone, not even people that I am personally driving to the event.
It's fair.
Look,
it's fair
if you can't be biased for your friends, why even bother having friends? Like,
emotional support, comfort.
we don't do that here.
companionship.
What are you on about? What's the opposite? Whatever the opposite of emotional support is what the stat check backstage is. You want emotional support? Be in the stat check Discord. The backstage is whatever the opposite of emotional support is.
Is that what it is? Shit. Oh no. Man, that makes a lot of things in my life very, very strange if that's the opposite of emotional support. Just saying.
Cool. Shall we move on? Should we talk a bit about WTC?
Yes, I think because it's in the title of the episode.
Yeah,
it is. Thing.
Oh my god, it's in 2 weeks, guys. Like, I don't know how to convey to you how ecstatic I am that like list submission is on Friday and that we'll have the draw on Saturday. Yep. And it's like, oh my god, and Canada could be our pool 1 seed and we can win our pool, and like, oh my god, it's gonna be amazing.
The amount of trash talk that has like steadily increased the closer we get to the event has been so good. And getting to hear a bunch of it like on video for those interviews has been hilarious.
And create a bunch of it. Let's be real, Nathan. You're not asking like questions.
But that's half the fun.
That is like I have to do that. 90% of the fun is to see if I can get like a team like into a fight at the WTC.
Or convince the team captain to go with the tattoo bet.
I know that was the best. That was the best. He was very confident. He was in fact so confident that I was like, man, you sound so confident. You should join this tattoo bet. Multiple people have joined that tattoo bet because of how confident they were and me pointing it out to them. So I'm very, very enthused.
So I suppose in order to give some semblance of structure to this,
Sure.
When the lists come out on Saturday, what are you looking at? Like, what are you looking at first? What team are you going to?
I mean, for me, I'm going to be running an event, so I'm not going to be looking.
Yeah.
At any
Shut up.
lists.
You're gonna be on BCP in between rounds,
Yeah.
checking every list, and you know
Yeah.
it. Don't even try to deny
No, you're right.
You're gonna be like sitting at
What
the
I'm-
table. You're gonna find whatever table two of your like WC players are sat at. And you're gonna go sit them and be like, "Hey guys, Judge pausing the clock. We're playing to lunch. You want to read lists?" And you guys are gonna sit and do it. And we all know this. So back up and answer the question.
Yeah. No, it's a tough one. So I can say right now, because this is kind of somewhat public knowledge, the Americans and the Canadians recently scrimmed. The Americans handed the Canadians their ass in that scrim. We learned a lot. So I'm not as quick to look at the American list as I would normally, because they usually have some interesting takes. Honestly, it'll probably be the Germans. Because the Germans and the Poles tend to have some of the more interesting takes on the meta and lists that I've found. So I just kind of want to see where they land. After that, after the Germans and Poles, it'll probably be whoever's in our pod, because we should know pods around the same time as lists are live.
I would assume we'll probably get like pods like the evening of rather than the day of. So I might imagine lists will be live a little bit beforehand. But
yeah, remember I'm 6 or 7 hours behind everyone, so I'll probably be looking at lists, in the middle of round 1, and then pods in the middle of round 2.
Yeah.
Can we just pause Clash for like 10 minutes? We just pause pods for the tournament for 10 minutes to watch them
curious.
draw
I'm going to start
from the giant wheel.
So while Innes answers the same question, I'm actually going to go and see how many WTC or WTC adjacent people are at this event.
Oh, I'm going straight to Team England list. I have to know. Like, I have to know how badly they shot the bed. So I want to know exactly what bad list Nas is playing. That's all I want to know. It's going to be like England, Australia, America, Germany, Poland in that order is probably what will happen. And then then I'll start looking at pods and like Sweden and stuff like that. And then eventually I'll be like sitting in Discord for like 6 hours writing list reviews for every single list in the event. And then that's the really fun bit. That's when the really fun stuff begins. Is when you're like, oh, so how do I play this? What does this unit do? What does Votan?
Oh no!
And that's always the most fun bit for me. Is I really enjoy the discovery phase before the event, when you get to start being like, oh, okay, I hadn't thought of this. How do I play into this? Or oh, they haven't thought of this. How do we exploit that and all that sort of stuff? I think that's very fun. If somebody's Elder gets 20-0, I'm probably going to ask them some questions. That is a very good point. If anybody gets 20-0 with Elder at the tournament and it wasn't against GSC, you are more than welcome. I personally, I think you're allowed to just take one of their Wraith models. They just don't get it anymore.
You're suddenly feeling an understrength Wraithguard unit.
And you'd still win. Like, it's fine, but...
Ooh, I've got a fun one. Just as a quick detour, pistols only work in the shooting phase.
Yeah, that's fun too.
I saw
Big guns never tire, and pistols only work in the shooting phase. Wraithguard's guns don't do anything.
And I've definitely misplayed that the whole time, and now just realized that I can't do it that way anymore.
So it doesn't matter, because under WTC they do work.
Oh. Cool. Are we following the WTC FAQ at Capital Clash?
Yes, it is a WTC event.
Just double check it.
Because I did just double check, and there are 10 WTC or WTC adjacent people present, not counting myself.
So you guys are all going to be reading lists. It's fine. There's all 17.
There's going to be a good chunk. We're
golden ticket, 17 players or something like that, right?
67 players registered right now.
17 players, yeah. You always round down.
Chaos. I leave for WTC in 5 days and I'm still assembling. This is fine.
Sorry, Alex. I'm deciding on Friday what to order for my army, so don't worry about it. Because I'm not ordering anything until submission is done. I'm like, I'll build models in the last week. It's fine. I do 40K for a living. I'll just take an hour.
Yep, there are definitely some of us who are just like, Dan, hold all of this. We might need it.
Yeah, it's okay. We very roughly know what the pod structure is going to look like. So going through the team roster.
Yeah.
What team do you not want to see in your pod? That's the next one.
So to give people context on this, because not everyone is
loading up the event, and I'm going to start talking about what the pods are.
Yeah, is that I know who's in every single pod because I've got my pod predictor, and yes, I wrote an Excel sheet that will predict what pods could look like. Anyways, at the WTC, there are 2 phases to the event. The first 3 rounds is the pod phase, wherein you will play one game in an order that you already know about, on missions that you already know about, against one of the 3 teams, against each of the 3 other teams in your pod. So in this particular case, there are 36 teams that are registered for the WTC, 34 national teams and 2 United Nations teams, which are essentially 2 additional
Malta and
national
Slovakia,
teams that couldn't quite get the required 5 players to represent their
Yeah, they're
nation. I
both
think it's
3 of 8 teams for Malta and Slovakia.
correct, which is wonderful. Like, it's great to see them coming out, and it'll be great because they're definitely going to go back to their countries with that experience to be like, hey, we can do this again next year and actually run our flag. So anyway, so there's 36 teams for that, which means for pods of 4 there are 9 pods. The way that the pods are worked is that they're seeded based on previous WTC's record. Now, the fun part about that is there's only been one WTC before this, because prior to COVID, it was the ETC. And so in 2022, the way that it will work out, or for 2023, we just
Do you
use
want to screen share
2023
this? Probably the easier way to
results.
do it.
Yes, I will screen share this. Present.
And we'll talk through it for anybody who's listening on the
Share
audio version.
screen. Window. I'm just going to do entire screen and then remember to turn this off afterwards. So there we go. So this is, we're going to start over here. This is the rankings from 2022. So Australia won, then we have Poland, Germany, USA, England, France, Sweden, the Netherlands, Canada, Spain, Ireland, Finland, Switzerland, Austria, Belgium, Scotland, Denmark, Greece, Italy, Iceland, Norway, Portugal, Wales, Northern Ireland, Romania, Luxembourg, and Latvia. And then new this year, they aren't necessarily new to the ETC, but they're new to the WTC. We have 2 UN teams. We have Bulgaria, Croatia, Cyprus, Czechia, Israel, New Zealand, and South Africa. And I believe New Zealand and South Africa and Israel are actually, as well as Cyprus, are actually new to the WTC.
Yes, this is their first WTC.
Yep.
And Bulgaria as well.
Bulgaria have applied before, but have never played before. Like,
Okay, because I couldn't find them in the historical rankings when I was doing a bit of research for this episode. So Croatia and Czechia have been at previous ETCs, but this is going to be their first WTC.
Yeah, we interviewed Cyprus, Israel, New Zealand, and South Africa as captains for Creme de la Creme.
Okay, wonderful. So what that basically means, and I've actually put it here, is that your first seed in each pod is going to be one of these 9 teams. So running across this in my little pod predictor is Australia, Poland, Germany, USA, England, France, Sweden, the Netherlands, and Canada in a random order. And then after that, same thing for places 10 through 19. And that's because last year's UN team, which ran under the name Warhammer Undivided, finished 11th. So they've been pulled from the standings because they weren't a real team. They were a very cool group of guys, but they weren't a real team. So then for the second seed, you have Spain, Ireland, Finland, Switzerland, Austria, Belgium, Scotland, Denmark, and Greece. And then for the third seed, you have Italy, Iceland, Norway, Portugal, Wales, Northern Ireland, Romania, Luxembourg, and Latvia. And after that, you have all of the teams that are new to the WTC this year. And so they make up the 4th seed. And so what happens is each one of these pods will be set up as, and it will be drawn randomly live on Contact Lost. Each pod will have one country from each one of those pods. And this thing actually just randomly updates with a new setup whenever I click a button. It's very fun. But it means that you can kind of visualize who could potentially be in your pod and who you don't want to be in your pod. So Derek is asking a really good question. What happens if you win your pod? So you will play those first 3 games. And then after that determines your seeding for, and you're basically Swiss pairing.
Yeah, we just
for the last 4 games. Yeah. Because it's a 7-game long event. We play 1 game on the first day, and then 2 for the next 3 days. So you end up playing 7 matches. In theory, you could have one team undefeated. Was Australia actually undefeated last year?
No, they were 6-0-1. They drew with USA.
So they didn't lose a round, but they didn't
also
win all 7 rounds.
Yeah.
When you run into really strong teams or equally skilled teams running into each other, draws actually are not uncommon.
You could fully win the event this year with 5 wins and 2 draws, or probably 5 wins, a loss, or like 6 wins and a loss. Like I think that is entirely
potentially
capable of
yes,
winning.
because it all depends on who ends up taking into each other. But yeah, so as an example, let's just say these are the pods, and you have Canada, Spain, Wales, and South Africa. Canada comes out of their pod having won all 3 of those games, which, given the strength of Spain, I don't think is actually a guarantee. And then you have, say, USA, who goes into Greece, Luxembourg, and Israel, and comes out of their pod 3-0. Any of the other countries that are 3-0 coming out of their pod have the equal chance of playing each other at the
it just goes to straight seeding at that point. So 3-0 teams will play each other, 2-0 and 1 teams will play each other, 2-1 teams, and so on and so forth. Just like it was.
And then after that,
your
for
first
round
3
5,
rounds
it's the same. Yeah. And the first 3 rounds means that the intention behind this, from my understanding, is to prevent, essentially first seed teams from playing each other in the first couple rounds and acting as spoilers.
It's also to make sure, from what I understand, that every team gets a chance to play against the best teams.
That too.
It's good for teams that are, weaker and have a less developed community to have the chance to play against Team England, Team America, Team Poland, and so on and so forth. Take the experience back and be like, hey, this is the level of WTC. This is what we can aspire to. And it's super cool that it gives every team a chance to do that. Obviously, it kind of sucks that you're just getting beaten on, but if you can take some lessons from it, like I know Latvia had a great time when they played USA last year in round 1.
They did.
Or
in
2
fact,
or whatever it was.
And that's the thing. Most of the like, in this case, seed 3 teams that played through last year had a pretty good experience against what would eventually be the seed 1 teams for this year, for the most part. There's always going to be rounds you don't enjoy, unfortunately, but for the most part, it's a good experience because it builds you up. It gives you an idea of where you're what you're lacking, what you're missing in terms of either preparation, lists, pairings knowledge, all of that. So that is where we're at right now.
So the question I asked was, who do you not want in your pool?
Yeah. So these are the countries that could potentially be in our pool. Canada, by merit of finishing 9th last year, barely squeaked in as a first seed country. So this is going to be a really interesting one because last year we were a 2nd seed country in the pod phase. So we ended up with Sweden, Wales, and Northern Ireland in our pod. And we came.
You guys got the nicest group of pod.
We had
the only bad team in that pod is Canada. Like the only bad team to play against is Canada. Like every other team in there is absolutely.
Listen here, we got honorable mention sports last year. The only reason we didn't get sports is because of the Australians. Because that is one of the things the Canadians do like, actually being recognized for. Is we're polite, we're friendly, and all that, but we like being best sports.
I don't know how you manage it with Kane's other team, but it's fine.
Definitely not a.
I think that's why you didn't win, to be honest. But
what was that, Nathan?
So definitely not a stereotype about Canadians involved in there somewhere.
No, and we definitely don't try to reinforce it. So anyways, so seed 2 could have Switzerland, Finland, Belgium, Greece, Austria, Scotland, Spain, Ireland, or Denmark. I think if from a experience perspective, I'm okay with any of those teams. From a might be challenging to win the round, it's probably Spain. I don't actually know the strength of Belgium this year because I haven't looked at their roster yet. Because I think they actually have a Belgian team this year.
They do, yeah.
Okay. And then maybe Finland, because we ran into some challenges when we played Finland. Although that was more of a play experience. And yeah.
What about Scotland?
Scotland will be fun.
Sorry, he doesn't have to say anything. It's fine. I know that.
Well, I mean,
I just saw Innes get slightly closer to the microphone repeatedly, and I was just like, I kind of want to see.
Well, if rumors are true, I've heard that Scotland has moved away from its 2 20s and 6 draws method of pairing.
Innocent.
Which we'll discuss more, I'm sure, on next week's show when lists are live. If Pizza Guardian Belgium doesn't have Tom, that will improve them. I didn't say it. Someone on the stream did.
That's it. I guess he's allowed to say whatever he wants.
Did one of us say that?
No. Yeah. They don't have Tom and they don't have Davi either, so that's significant improvements to the Belgian roster. No, as for myself, the only team we really don't want to pair is England, just because we see England all the goddamn time. Obviously we are in that pool 2 seed, so we're pairing down into somebody and up into somebody. I'm fairly happy playing anybody except England. Please just don't make us play England because it's so boring. We play them every year at All Nations. I can't be arsed dealing with them again. They're such twats.
Having seen their player cards, yes.
Really? That bad?
I put one in backstage. You can see it.
I did see that. Ben, when do we get to fantasy draft this? We will be doing the fantasy draft after lists are live. But that will be happening.
You're still screen sharing, by the way.
He knows.
Okay. By the way, they're all kind of like that, is what I've been told.
Oh, that's pain.
Oh, Nassim. Oh, Nassim, you beautiful little 12-year-old child.
We love you, Supernova. We do.
All right, so here's the fun question. I'm going to distract things for a little bit. What is your ideal pod, Innes? So, actually, two answers to this. Your ideal pod for coming out of the pods with a good record, and your ideal pod for you want to have a good time.
Okay, so we're 3-0 if we pull Canada and any 3 seed and 4 seed. Or probably Sweden as well.
Italy could give you a run for their money.
No, they can't. It's fine.
Play Shintil and see how it works out.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I don't have to play Shintil. I'll just mention something about pasta and watch him run away. I know Shintil, it's not offensive. Please don't be worried. I'll just mention one of the warp time things and he'll go running. And then Canada are crap, so that's fine. Sweden are a bit the same. So yeah.
Sorry, Tomek is sending me all the player cards for they're really good.
Yeah, Chris says if we play the Italians, he'll tell them he likes pineapple on pizza. Instant 20s. I'm not particularly worried about any of the pool 3 seeds, assuming that we have prepped as much as I hope we have.
My only comment is Italy has this tendency to have on and off years, and I think this is going to be their on year.
Yeah, they got to prove that first, all right? I welcome seeing it. I would love it if Italy were good, but they can be very variable. They'll be fine. It's all right. We're gonna pull Poland and have plausible deniability. That's all I'm really looking for. The optimal pod as far
Poland, Italy, and UN team 2, and suddenly find yourself
the most fun pod would be either Australia or Sweden, and then us and probably either Norway or Northern Ireland, and then South Africa or New Zealand or something like that. Just any chill team from the. I'm imagining most of them are going to be pretty chill, but South Africa or New Zealand, I imagine, would be pretty fun in terms of all speaking English and being super easy on that front. What about yourself, Jeremy?
For us, it's kind of interesting. I kept joking with people that we could just have a Commonwealth off. It could be Canada, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and New Zealand. And that would be actually a very fun pod because there would be no language issues whatsoever aside from the Kiwis.
The Canadians, yep.
You
guys are bringing Francois. I'm guaranteeing somebody's going to understand him.
Well, no, we only brought one actual Frenchman this time around. Francois is an honorary English speaker.
Are we calling the people from Quebec Frenchmen now? Is that what's going on?
Are we calling them people?
Oh, dang.
But Bruno is... Bruno's old enough. He's not a threat to you.
Okay, Nathan, for you, what is the pod you want to see for maximum chaos?
I mean, what I really want is I want Germany, Poland, and France in one pod together, but that's not going to happen.
Literally impossible.
That's what I want.
I mean,
because they've all called each other out. If I'm doing the draw, no, I'm not. In fact, doing the draw.
I slipped, and somehow Spain were in pool 1 and France weren't.
I mean, I would do that to France just for funsies. Actually, I'd do it to Germany just for the entertainment value of them getting really upset with me later. But I think ideally, I just want Innes to play again. Innes and Team Scotland, obviously. Sorry. To play Canada. That's my current ideal dream.
I don't think we've ever lost to Canada, just for what it's worth.
I mean, it doesn't matter if you've ever lost to Canada before. I think also getting one of the new teams into that pod would be fun. I think New Zealand is probably the strongest of those 4 teams based on my knowledge of who's on those teams. Then I have to pick one more team. Luxembourg, because I like the members of that team. They're all nice people. There you go.
Yeah.
That would be a fun team to watch that pod happen.
I think the maximum chaos pod in terms of anybody could win it is probably Canada, Finland, Italy, and then like New Zealand or one of the stronger UN teams, but probably New Zealand.
Yeah, that could
Where
be
I could
interesting.
see,
for
I could
sure.
see something like I could see some upsets happening there.
I think Contact Lost forgot that I'm playing in the tournament, but they said that they'll accept Nathan as a chaperone during the draw. I can just turn around mid-game and yell at the screen each draw.
No, I'm looking forward to this. It's gonna be a good time. All right, I'm gonna turn this off.
It's gonna be great.
And the other question is,
Right.
have you sent all of your player pictures to Tomek? Is the actual question.
Tell Tomek that they will be with him by Friday.
Okay.
I was gonna say Canada should have sent everything a week or two ago.
I'm still trying to get my guys to actually write their names out. So
I'm just publicly shaming random team people. That's all.
Oh,
That's what I'm going to do.
My favorite by far was we have Max, who is an absolutely lovely fellow, runs a game store out in Quebec, and he's been doing our social media for us. So anytime you see, sorry, I just saw the other one. Damn it, Nathan! I can't look.
Can you
at my
please-
screen right now.
Nathan, can you please Photoshop those and replace them with water bottles? Like I can't show that on air.
You can share Mike Porter's. Porter's is all right.
Porter's is great. All right. Anyways, yeah. So it's one of these things where he's been doing all of our social media. He's been doing a really good job of it because he's been doing it for the last year or so. He's been doing posts every now and then. He wanted to do player profiles like hockey card style, trading cards that you do for like, I don't know if it's a thing in Europe. Actually, it's more. I know the Americans do it.
They're here for football. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I wasn't sure if football players did like, and then you have like
We have like
whatnot.
match attacks or whatever the fuck they're called. Yeah. Like
Okay, yeah. Hockey card collection is huge over here. There's a ridiculous amount of money in it. Anyways, so Max wanted to make up hockey cards for everyone, and so asked us like photos, and then for each of the players to fill out like a quick little blurb about themselves. And hilariously, at one point, Chris hops into one of our team chats and it's like, "Hey, everyone needs to fill this out." And I already know what's happening here because I open it up and him and Bruno, our captain and assistant captain, are the only players who haven't filled out their information. Every other player has filled their stuff out. Chris fills his out quickly, and because Bruno didn't fill his out in time, Max ended up posting a made-up one, which was beautiful, like just absolutely beautiful. And I'm going to very quickly pull this up while we talk about other things. But basically, it was just like, this is what happens when you don't listen to your social media guy, because things get very silly very fast.
Yeah, if anybody's not filled this out by Friday, I'm gonna just let Matty do it for them, and Matty's an agent of chaos. So
I mean, as you've seen by the Team England ones that I've shown you, Agent
I'm
of
assuming
Chaos
Nas
is fine.
sent in all of those photos. Yeah.
I don't actually think it was. I think Team England is just drunk on confidence.
Unearned
put it
confidence. I
out
can't wait
there.
to see which of England and America don't make top 5 this year. It's going to be great.
Definitely S tier in confidence. We'll see if that it pans out to ability or not.
Well, there's no S in England. That's all I'm saying. There is an L though, so we'll see.
Team USA's are also pretty funny. At least Sean's is.
Yeah, I actually can't find it because it seems like he took it down.
Sean is the only funny person on Team America, so I'm assuming every single other one is as serious as a funeral. So,
I mean, Sean Naden says 36 ? Next to his age, so I don't know.
that's fair.
All
right, guys, should we do the plugs and then move on to show questions?
Yes.
Cool. Hey everybody, thank you so much for being with us for another hour of Stat Check so far. We really appreciate you guys all being here. If you'd like to support us, there's a couple of ways you can help us out with that. First is by checking out our sponsor at red-dragon.ca. There you can get really cool Stat Check merch and a bunch of other stuff, as well as 40K stuff in Canada. They do ship internationally. If you are a member of the Stat Check Discord, you can get access to a discount code there. I believe it's 15%, but don't quote me on that.
It is
15% off everything that you can get shipped internationally, pretty much, as far as I know.
So if you are
available on the Patreon page for anyone who keeps asking me where it is.
Yeah, so if you go to patreon.com/statcheck, you can get access to our Patreon Discord there, as well as the Discord code for Red Dragon, which is a great place to get all your stuff. It also supports us. You can also get our merch there. That's stuff like dice and objective markers. We're also looking at getting objective coins done and some other cool stuff like that for people who have to play deploy Surfer Skulls in the Ritual, which apparently is all of us at the singles. So I'm going to have to get some of those sorted. Or you could use them as like Battleshock tokens or whatever. I'm assuming there's lots of things you could do with them. So do check that out. Otherwise, YouTube is the best place to be for that. It's youtube.com/c/statcheck for our money, it's the best place to watch the show. If you're listening to this on the podcast episode, it's much better with the facial reactions and the visuals and all that cool stuff. And if you could, it would really help us out if you could chuck us a like, a comment, a subscription, whatever helps. Anything like that just really helps us out with discoverability, getting out there, and just growing the channel and being able to do more of the cool stuff that you guys enjoy. Chuck a comment on the most recent video. It's the biggest thing that helps us out. Doesn't really matter what it says. All we care about is that our name is in your mouth, not really what you're saying. Sorry, you can laugh at that. It was meant to be stupid. I think I've broken Nathan. Normally it's me that breaks at this bit. Instead, I'm just talking nonsense.
This is the most non-chuffed plug section that you've done so far. You
can also check out our another one of our sponsors, Saltar Games, on their Etsy store, which I don't know the name for, but it's in the description. You can get access to a bunch of stuff like tokens and measuring gauges and stuff like that. It's best if you're in the UK, but I've definitely seen people pay international shipping on it, and it's not too egregious. I will probably do a bulk order for the StatCheck guys to distribute at WTC itself, so we'll see what happens there. I know Jeremy's mentioned that already. What else is there? We're live on Goonhammer. If you check out the articles on Goonhammer, you can check that out and see the link to it. And it's good for us to link through there. So if you didn't know, we get posted there as well. That's about all I've got. The other things are there are 2 other shows on the network, Enter the Matrix and XM1. Do check those out. They are both excellent shows about different aspects of 40K, whether that's teams or playing 40K with commitments for those respectively. I think XM1 is next live a week on Thursday,
because they were just live this past weekend.
Yeah, in about 9 days from now. And the last thing is stat-check.com/coaching, where you can get access to all the coaching by myself and Typhus. Nathan, we didn't actually have you on the show to talk last week. Do you want to have a brief thing about what the coaching session was like that we did on air?
Yeah, the coaching session with Innes was great. I definitely did have a moment where Innes was like, so you do the thing that you say that you want your opponent to do when you're playing against them. And I think I broke psychologically when he told me that. So if you want to watch me get broken down psychologically, but also learn a lot about being a better player and kind of what coaching is about, it was very useful. I've been trying to put it into practice in my practice games with that list leading up to Clash. So go watch that though, because it's really interesting and kind of will also just give you a good perspective on how you should analyze your game, regardless of if you pay for coaching or not. But also it's a good sign that coaching is a good value proposition if you're trying to get good.
You're not allowed to say that. Don't say that. Anyway, That is it for the plugs. I really hope you guys are enjoying the show. I'm going to run and refill my water, and then
Redacted.
we can... I'm going to go refill my water, and then we will get on to the show questions. And one last thing, David, you said, hey, sleep on NZ all you want. I literally said that I thought you were the best of the pool 4 teams. You don't get to be mad at me for that. That's mean.
I definitely can't have David mad at me anyways. That's just not allowed.
I mean, he might just not deliver half your army and just be like, yeah, you get this half, and you wouldn't know it's not 2,000 points, and that'd be great.
I love how that worked out from YouTube, by the way. That made me very happy.
That is very
I'm going to go refill my water. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
I keep getting more, by the way, images from the various team player cards from Tomek over time. So I got Sean Naden's and I got Jack Harpster, where he's wearing 2 Santa hats.
Nice.
I think it's 2 Santa hats. It might be 3 Santa hats.
Yeah. So if anyone is wondering why I put this up, this is a half screened off photo of the top prize for this weekend's event. This is a full-sized Emperor's shield. As you can see at the bottom of the image, there is a lion model.
You just drop it.
For scale. Yeah, so...
I reckon you could drop that on the line and he'd pass it through up the bottom, will save and be fine.
I don't know about this. It tends to ignore modifiers. It might, and I think Richard has +1 to wound from the blunting damage.
So it's trade.
I don't know. I guess I can't say... I'm not English, so I can't be a jerk and say it's coming home or something like that. Definitely not going to win this shield, actually.
Yeah. So one of the locals to the event, Hammerstruck Smithing, has been working his butt off for this. We commissioned him to do it after the Kopesh that he made for All Is Dust back in March that Anthony took home. We would rather another American not take this one home because the shipping starts to add up.
I'll just make it my baggage. All I'm going to take home is a shield. That's all it's.
So just carry your baggage home on your shield.
True. Maybe the bag just fits in the shield.
Also, isn't it saying, Nathan, come home with the shield or on it?
Oh, I don't think I'm good enough to be able to say that with any amount of confidence.
Especially since we got notification that friend of the show, TJ Lanigan's going to be there this weekend.
Oh, hell yeah. Good for him.
Well, now I'm especially not winning.
Well, that's another person with a golden ticket who can place above you and not matter.
It's true. I believe there are 6 or 7 attendees that already have their golden ticket.
So that's like half the field. So
It's like 10% of the field, I think, something like that.
It not only is the biggest concentration of tickets being awarded to winners, but it's the biggest concentration of ticket holders at a event in the middle of nowhere.
I don't know. Brian and I went to an 8-person RTT together.
All right, yeah, you made up 25% of them.
I mean, Innes and Brian just make up that much of the Scottish medical
Wow.
in the situation.
I thought you were going a very different direction with that for a second.
Well, I was going to say the other 6 were sheep, but that's okay too, I suppose.
We were 50% by volume, but
I'm not going to fat shame anybody today.
I didn't say anything was shameful about it. I worked hard for this figure.
He's cultivated
Look,
it.
I got a TikTok recently on my TikTok account about the those fry boxes, where it's like fried pizza and stuff like that.
I just want to. Did you just admit on air to having a TikTok account again? How old are you?
Yeah, I have a TikTok account. I don't know. What do you want from me?
I used the
Better.
without it.
Gotta stay young somehow, Innes. I don't know.
And watching 14-year-olds dance is how you do that?
That is, in fact, not what's on my TikTok, Innes. But it does
Cool.
say a lot about your TikTok, Innes.
Imagine having TikTok. Jesus Christ.
Ben, these weapons as trophies are making air travel difficult. That's why we ship them.
That's all right, Ben. There's no prizes for WTC that are worth that you would have to worry about bringing back. So
The best painted prize last year was pretty awesome.
yeah, but
What was the
Americans
best
aren't winning
painting?
that. What the fuck are you on about?
Hey, some of us paint really well.
You're not playing for Team America. What? Right. Let's do show questions before I have an aneurysm. Okay. Chaz asks, what's everyone's suggestions, tips, and tricks for TOs and terrain? Having run tournaments for 7th to 9th, I found 10th a tricky one to navigate. For casual games, is it just city fight from now on in? Yeah, just play city fight boards. Like, just put 15 runes on a board and like make them symmetrical and like struggle bus it. It's fine. I got no better answer, unfortunately. Jeremy?
No, not really.
We bought just buy WTC terrain, and it gives you enough ruins to do everything. A lot of it's modular, like you can take off top floors and stuff like that if you hate it, and you can always like stack them together and stuff like that. If you feel like it's too much terrain, then take a piece off until you feel like the game is the amount of terrain that you and your opponent think it should be. Like, have a conversation with your opponent about how much terrain should be on the table for the game.
And then add like, if they're a night player, just add like 3 to their suggestion on each side.
Yes, there's definitely some times where you're playing against like a player and they get to a store first and they take like half the terrain they should have because they're playing Tower Knights.
Yeah, no, and I will kind of reiterate on that. One of the things, again, spoiled because we have people who we have Dan locally who listens to us when we ask for things, and Dan who has been busting his back over the last 3 weeks making sure that we have terrain for Clash. Yeah, realistically, like the WTC, it can be a little pricey, but I don't think it actually is when you look at how much they charge for like the 8 sets, or if you make a deal with Ishik. But go for Wayland Yutani. The kits are nice. You can even customize them if you're doing them.
Remember to search Wayland Yutani 40k, not just Wayland Yutani. You'll get very different search results.
You will.
If you're looking for it in the United States, you can always message me and I can put you in touch with somebody who makes WTC sets as well.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a bunch of approved resellers on the WTC website as well that you can check out.
Yep.
Yeah,
right.
There's definitely good opportunities, but yeah.
Nick asks, pick one: retire from 40k to play OS, or you play 40k only on the FLG field-based layout. I'm playing AOS every day. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not playing on the garbage FLG boards ever again. You cannot make me.
I'd retire to AOS. At least the models are nicer.
I would just play that Manticore from Sigmar, just like 4 of them. Like, that's fine.
I like it.
Jeremy?
I'd retire from 40k.
I love 40k, but not that much.
Yeah. Field base is pain. I mean, who knows?
Does my opponent know we're playing on field base? Like, if I show up to a UKTC event, like the cards just like makes it field base.
Yeah, but it's only. Eventually, your reputation will precede you. You'll get away with that for like one event.
Yeah, but like, are they gonna build just in case they play me? Like,
They're gonna red card you, and you're just never gonna play
look,
anymore.
I'm assuming it's a curse, and I'm just like protected from repercussions for this.
No, definitely
And
not.
I'll just, yeah, like
You also
if
play
like my
Brad
board
every
magically
single round.
Okay, I'm hard. Like, I'm done. I'm sorry. That was on industrial terrain, not on field base. Come on.
Could have been worse.
No, it couldn't. And I would significantly rather play on field base than industrial. At least I've had a
Oh yeah,
wall
you
to
had those
hide
little
behind.
holes in the walls.
They
There
weren't
aren't
on
any
all the
under
sets.
Yeah, no,
No.
please, please don't make me remember Alvio.
Let's move.
How would
past
you describe the
curses.
different regional US matters? Well, Nathan doesn't travel, and neither of us play in the US. So,
flying
you
in
don't
like
travel within the US.
2 days?
You don't travel within the US for tournaments, Nathan. You play in
That's-
Chicago and Chicago accessories.
And LVO,
and LVO,
and apparently
an
random
open in
Canadian events in the middle
Seattle.
of nowhere.
Yes, but that's not the America. That's fine. It's fair.
And
It's fair. I don't
Mecca
travel to that
in
many
Belgium.
events.
Yeah.
I just look at stats all the time. That's all I do.
Are we seeing distinct global region metas developing yet? We have had 35 tournaments. Give it some time. We don't know yet.
No. We are tracking the regions now. We are tracking countries now, so you can actually filter those. Come back at like the end of August, and we'll do a little regional meta breakdown.
Can
Probably,
you finally?
maybe.
I'll start doing region tier lists when I do my meta breakdowns.
I love it. We can start making some rivalries happen for next
We start inflaming people. Yeah. What's the best way as a player, as a TO, and as a community to deal with an opponent who cheats as the other player? I don't fucking know.
Get
man.
a judge
If I
involved.
could solve that problem, I would have done it years ago.
I mean,
Get a judge involved early and often.
that if it's
Bitch in
your
Discord.
community, like figure out what you want your punishment policy to be and like stick to it. Like, don't do any of this weird, we don't have rules, we kind of make them up as we go bullshit that happens in a lot of communities. Make a TO group, talk to your TO group, and make sure that you punish people in a uniform fashion and make sure everybody knows about a punishment.
But at the same time, I will say, keep those things within the group. There is no need for witch hunts when it comes to dealing with it. If someone has been addressed as a problem matter, it doesn't need to go beyond that. Because you talk with the person, you say you're no longer welcome at these events until you reform your behavior. The TOs are all in agreement, and that person just stops showing up. And by and large, the community's happy because it looks like something has been done without it turning into this person is...
Yeah, you don't need ban lists of people, but you can internally let the other people in your community who run events know that you've banned a person.
Which is exactly what we do up here in Ontario. We have a community group. We keep track of players. There is only a handful of players that have ever reached that point. And I can actually say with gratitude that one of those players has recently started playing again. And they're a joy to play. Which is exactly what you want.
I never miss an opportunity to rag on Craig.
This is the WTC is definitely creating some much more defined trash talk.
Look, man, when you're Scotland, you got to punch up to like the best you can, right?
I mean, when it is just you and Brian punching, yes, I understand.
Okay.
Just gonna throw random shade at Scotland.
What's the best drink to forget the pain?
What kind of pain?
I don't know.
Emotional.
Grant didn't specify. I'm going to state specifically that it's not free vodka in Poland because all that does is create new pain. And I may have done some shit I shouldn't have in Poland. So it's not vodka. It's not vodka and Coke. I can confirm that.
You could have at least used a decent mixer with it.
It was Pepsi, but whatever.
That's worse. That's worse, actually.
It's not. It's like European Pepsi. It's different to the stuff you guys have over there.
No, it's not.
It very much is. Speaking from experience,
it's still not better. I mean, old fashioned is good.
I mean, I like a nice rum and Coke. If I'm gonna just drink to forget a little bit of stuff, nice rum and Coke is a good way to do it.
My go-to for when I actually just want to chill, relax, and forget about my day is probably Crown Royal and ginger ale. So whiskey ginger.
That's a good choice. I like that one. I don't know if I'm just trying to forget, it's Long Island iced teas until I just pass out in a corner somewhere.
That's a good shout, actually.
Yep.
Something that just tastes great, and you don't have to worry about much
Yeah,
else.
I'll cocktails all day long. Nice, something nice and fruity. That'll do.
You'll do tequila sunrises until you wake up the next morning.
Tequila rises until you wake up at sunset. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this show is for 18 plus. If you are under 18, please do not drink. Or 21 in the US because your laws are archaic. Thoughts on Demon's high win rate and 0 tournament wins? Just a gatekeeper for good players to easily knock down, depending too much on coin flips and passing 4-ups and 6-inch charges. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that highlights everything. They get countered real well by the top 3 armies right now.
Yeah, imagine like being an army that has to get within charge range of a Thousand Suns army, where when you go into charge range of a Thousand Suns army, it like flips 3 dials and goes to 14. Like, no, thank you.
We did have one person who came really close at Tacoma, who was running big boy time. I think it was.
Yeah, and then he bounced into Custodes and got big boy timed off.
Oh yeah, and then he also lost to Eldari in the consolation round.
Brutal.
Got sent to big boy timeout.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a decent amount of legs in like the 4 chickens in Bellacore list. I think it's completely reasonable to 4-1 with. I think you'll struggle to win a tournament with any level of consistency. It's too short ranged, it's too not enough firepower, too reliant on combat in an edition that doesn't really reward you for being all of those things and actively makes it detrimental to too many armies for you to reliably have consistent matchups at the top level.
Yeah, and sometimes gunline armies will just close that gap and you die.
Yep. Logan asks, what makes the best minions? Zombies, skeletons, or crafted monstrosity? I'd actually argue it's stat check patrons.
God damn it. They do make the best cultists. If only we could 3D scan them to make cultist models for Anthony.
I mean,
and then just give them little V8 brands or something. I think I just about killed Innis.
If we knew that Anthony was playing CSM or 2 months ahead of an event, that we could actually do that.
We could scan their head and print models of them.
Yeah, exactly.
It would not be cheap, but
it would be funny.
I think there's one of the mini companies for D&D miniatures does that for you, actually.
Yes, they do.
Honestly, I think, would it be funnier to have a bunch of that, or just 50 of Jeremy?
50 Jeremys would be pretty good. That would be pretty good.
50 Jeremys and 1 Nathan to be the squad sergeant.
Alex House says, I've got access to a handheld New Zealand scanner.
I'm not saying that we should do that at WTC with every team captain, but I'm not saying we should and do and just apply for approval recommendation next year of just
it's a unit of racks in that situation, actually. I think
it's a WTC rest, but you're asking for exaction squad approval.
But Lim, your face is on this one. I don't know.
Yes,
have you played? We're moving on. Have you played non-S tier armies into Necrons? The feedback from everyone I've seen playing Visa them so far was, that was the worst game of 40k because the Necron graveyard was 0 models. Yes, Necrons are one of the gatekeepers and one of the things that is causing the stratification of 40k armies. Part of the reason we're seeing that big middle where there's 10 armies that are sitting between 45 and 55 and 11 armies that are just, or 11 or 12 armies that are just below 45% win rate is because they just can't punch up. They can't deal with the Necron tankiness, the Custodes durability and damage output, the Marine Desolation Marine shooting your the Thousand Suns indirect, and all of those factions you gatekeep for one reason or another. And the armies that can compete in some ways or with some of them are in that 45 to 55, and the ones that can't are below it. And those games are not fun. They're exactly as unfun as playing GSE into one of the middle armies is.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, I played Custodes in the Necrons. Custodes aren't technically an S tier right now, and blew through 2 Lich Guard bricks, but that was very much a touch and go for a while there.
Necrons are definitely one of those armies where you shoot them and then it feels like nothing dies repeatedly. I definitely did or they all die at once. The two poles are they never die or they just all go away.
Or your Goonhammer's James Grover and you watch a Lich Guard brick disappear to a single Acolyte squad activation with the bombs.
That feels
it's disgusting that it kills 0.7 on average and you can have 5
that feels above average for
it's not that above average.
But it's just that slight bit above average where he was like, If I'd had one model left, I could have reanimated 2d 3+1 wounds, and then I wouldn't, or 3d 3+1 wounds, and I wouldn't be in this problem right now.
Yeah, but the squad's still going to die to the second bomb squad. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, I was definitely looking at Bortel's list. Bortel at the table, and he's like, I don't know what to do with the second unit now.
I don't know. Just throw it at something else. Just do it twice. I don't know.
If one has a problem and owns too many armies, what is the optimal storage solution for containing all the painted models without damaging them all? No idea. I just damage my models. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, same here. I put the armies that I care about on display, and everything else ends up in bins.
I use like really useful boxes, but like
That's what I use,
a lot of
too.
stuff slips around and slides around when you move them about. It can be awkward. Foam is like reasonable. Display shelves is obviously the best, but some stuff's just going to get damaged. You're just going to have to work around it, protect the stuff you can, or go expensive and put stuff in foam and things like that.
I use really useful tubs, but I put metal sheets in them and put magnets in my bases.
That's the smartest thing to do.
I'm about like 15 years of hobby of not doing that, away from being able to do that. Like if I could go back in time,
It really
I would definitely
takes
start
like
doing that.
a
But
weekend, bud.
I'm not.
It takes a weekend.
Dude, I have like 5,000 models out in that garage. I'm not buying that many magnets.
Fair.
If GW favorite bad movie.
Oh, what is it? The one with So in it. What's that movie called?
The Room.
The Room. Yeah, that's my favorite bad movie.
Rocky Horror.
I really don't.
That's another good bad movie.
What? I don't know what constitutes a bad film.
You're too
young for
zoomer.
this question. I'm not a zoomer. Fuck you. Jesus Christ. Nathan's the one on TikTok. Jesus. I don't know. Is the Scooby-Doo movie considered a bad movie? I'll go with that one.
Wow.
That movie was pretty terrible, but it's also quite fun. So let's go with that. Like the one with like the weird alien monsters that like possess people's bodies and stuff. Yeah, that one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that
Okay.
qualifies as a bad movie. We'll go with that. It's the one that came to mind. If GW emergency patches the two scary big bad guys, will the meta be fixed? No, we've just talked about that. It'll be better. Definitely better.
No, it won't.
It'll be better because there'll be like 10 armies that can compete with each other and then 10 garbage armies, and it'll be like 7th edition. But at least
there'll be Custodes and Imperial Knights up here going hi, and T-Sun's just below that.
The fact that you're
I don't think that's better.
For sure.
It's not better. It's not better if it's 5 factions instead of 3.
It objectively kind of is, like in terms of percentage wise, it's definitely better. It's not better in a way that's good, but it's like 30% instead of 10%, and I'll take that. Okay. Do any of you have a Holy Grail model that you'd like to own one day but haven't been able to find, afford, or justify the purchase?
One of those old metal Thunderhawks just seems kind of fun to own, mostly because it's like historical memorabilia at this point. Also, I don't know how you like assemble it and keep it together.
I've watched more than a few people will assemble those, and a lot of J-Bond, a lot of pinning.
The Squidmar video of them assembling it is genuinely insane.
Yes,
for me,
especially since they assembled it, painted it, and then shipped it.
So for me, it's the forge-rolled metal, the forge-rolled resin hive tyrant with wings. But the worst thing is that I have one and I built it without wings because I needed it for a tournament. So
oh no!
So I need to get a second one so I can build it with wings.
I will say a Warlord Titan would be fun though, like just as a build.
It seems so unplayable. I would like to own something.
I mean, they're not meant to be played. Well, that'd be something I'd get commission painted. So like somebody does freehand freaking armor panels or something for its legs.
Just imagining me doing that with like dry brush and contrast. It's like
yeah, because it kind of is a Holy Grail model in that regard. So I would agree with that. But for me, it'd probably be a Warhound because I can actually field it right now.
That's true, unless you're at the WTC.
Not a real faction.
Anything else that's just like a general.
Oh man, there's like a bunch of 2nd edition squat models that are kind of neat. I think all those are kind of cool.
At some point, I should try and get like a 2nd edition hive tyrant as well. I have like all the other ones. I don't have the 2nd edition one yet, so at some point I'll probably try and get one. But I mean, I'll just get told I can't use it at WTC, so why bother? Okay. When is WTC list submission? Are lists public to see afterwards? If so, how do you see them? WTC list submission is this Friday. Lists should be public as of Saturday, although we'll be going through list checks, so they will be subject to change. And anyone can see them on Best Coast Pairings. The event is called World Team Championship 2023. You can just go and look at it. Which top country do you think will underperform at WTC this year and miss the top 10? And which lesser known country will break into the top 10?
I could see New Zealand breaking into the top 10.
I could see New Zealand doing that too.
I can't wait. One of America and England isn't going to do it this year. They're just going to show the best.
I'm picking England to fall out of the top 10. I don't think it's likely, but I think that would be the
Make for
thing
a
that
great
would
story.
happen. That would be the most 40K thing, because 40K is so much about hubris that I think it just applies to England,
It also means Nas would have to get a tattoo.
which would also amuse me. I won't lie.
I almost don't want it to happen because I don't want Nas to have to get a tattoo because I don't think he's like technically allowed to.
He
So-
did.
Anthony was very smart about it. It's a single thought. That's all it is.
Yeah, but it's still I
Mm.
don't
It'll
know,
look like a
the
mole. That's all it
principle
is.
thing, I want to protect my poor boy. So
I
He's
just
did it-
wonder
he's
what
done it to
actually
himself. His hubris has,
Yeah, I know.
has done that.
I'm still on team anyone but England, but I would like anyone but England and America to do worse. That's kind of where I'm at now. Like England cannot win, but also England, like I would be okay with like England were like 7th and America 8th. That's kind of where I'm at now.
I will say I would cheer the loudest if either Canada or Scotland won. Like
No,
I would be at the front for that.
And do you know what? All the pigs that are flying around the room will cheer.
I know that's also reasonable, but I'm just saying that I would cheer the loudest. in
Turns out that
situation.
10 other teams got food poisoning on day 2.
And
Just
I'm not
ignore
saying they
Nathan
poisoned the
passing out the
haggis.
sandwiches.
Yeah. We're gonna have every team that we play sharing a wee shot of haggis with us and see if
A
we can
wee
break.
shot of haggis.
Wee
How do
shot
you
of
make a
haggis.
shot of
You
haggis?
put some haggis in a glass and make people down it. It'll be fine.
I'm just picturing liquid haggis, like somebody blended haggis and
blended haggis smoothie. We'll just give everybody a haggis bonbon. That's what it'll be. A haggis bonbon. Just give everybody a
there you
haggis
go.
bonbon to chew on. There you go. Okay. Our Atlanta Jackals and Jackal Alphas with Prowling Engines is a scam. Do you ever play more than 10? They sure feel good going first, but fold like wet paper. Yes, they're a scam. No, don't run them. Just they're not good.
Yeah.
They're so fragile. They are playable. Like you will not make your list actively like lose games by playing them, but you will like it will be harder to win some games, and the games you will lose harder because you have Jackals. Is broadly my feeling on them. They just don't really do enough. What would be the best way to run a league in a local game store in 10th? Would you do random matches using the Leviathan deck or some sort of set missions? I would probably just like recommend a mission per round and be like, hey, play a game with this mission and these conditions on roughly this terrain, like whatever your local store has, and just give people like a week to play a game or 2 weeks to play a game and see how it goes. Like there's a lot of ways to do it though, and your mileage will vary depending on your community hugely. Some communities will have a bigger appetite. Some communities will have a smaller. I know Crusade leagues are fairly popular if you want to add like a bunch of paperwork to playing 40k and like be Nathan. Or you can do escalation leagues. Like there's tons of ways to do it, and your miles will vary depending on how competitive your community is, how much the appetite is there, whether people are starting with big armies or starting with small armies. Like there's lots of ways to work it.
You should set standards though. Like definitely like create some uniform standards and just keep it that way if you're going to do it. It's easier to force everybody to use the same terrain, especially rather than having some Tau player put one ruin on a table and then say it's okay and then get in a fight with their opponent about it.
No, that sounds hilarious. You should definitely do that. Okay. What's the best way to become the master of your own mind?
Meditation.
No idea. Not there yet.
Do some mindfulness. Take
I feel
that
like this
into
is a reference to
consideration.
something.
I'm sure it is, but I'm ignoring it.
I feel like what you should do is you should feel a deep-rooted sense of shame for your wargaming, and it's probably something like that.
No.
Stop that.
I have no idea, man. I'm not there myself. So if anybody figures it out, tag me.
The next
Okay.
question.
What's the wackiest list you've considered throwing on the table?
A
Whatever
Warhammer.
whatever Canada's list for Space Marines is, it's the shittest list I've ever considered.
I'd be really curious to see how close it is to the Scottish Space Marines list.
Yeah, it's probably because Francois ripped it straight out of the Marines chat when I was posting about it.
Copy. Isn't it mimicry is the sincerest form of flattery or something like
Imitation.
that? Imitation. There you go.
You're
Mimicry,
thinking mimicry because you've
imitation.
been talking about birds so much.
It's true. I just want to say that's the thing about those that has surprised me the most because I did it as like a freaking joke once, and then everybody was like, "Where are my bird questions, Nathan?" And I was like, "I guess you all get bird questions."
Hell yeah. I'm glad I didn't do a show now. I let Chris do it instead.
Yeah, and after
I
all,
didn't
good
do
artists
Scotland,
borrow,
so
great
then-
artists steal.
Contact Lost did do a Scotland episode. They did it with Chris.
They did, but I wasn't there for it.
Exactly.
I didn't do Canada, Scotland, or Australia.
Okay. The actual wacky stuff on the table, I very, very nearly played Harrod and Crusher Stampede, which I still think is like the wackiest list that was ever a real list in tournaments.
I've played into that. That was very silly.
It's a silly list, yeah. The fact that it was viable is hilarious as well, but it's definitely a wildly wacky list.
I mean, for
love that
me,
model.
the two, and these actually more just stand out to me because I watched them play at Tacoma, one was the double Hierophant list. It was on stream.
Hell yeah.
Could it move?
Barely.
On GW Terrain, I'm assuming.
On GW Terrain, it can because there's a whole bunch of sections that are prescribed to be less than 4 inches.
It also
and
measures
because
the
it can
hull
move
now, so
over
it doesn't have to deal with the whole like big ass base thing.
Yeah, but it's also kind of weird because it's got the spindly. Yeah, it looks cool on the table, is what I'll say. Very, especially when it plays in Marines, very Starship Troopers.
Very
And then the other one was the triple Seraptic heavy construct.
Those models are rad.
I did almost take triple Tesseract Vault and the Deceiver to a WTC,
That would have been
which
cool.
would have been very difficult to fly with, and I'm really glad I didn't have to do that.
Necrons have some great models. It's
They
just
do.
those two, though.
Okay, Innes, what was your favorite Polish food? I am not gonna lie, wasn't a huge fan of Polish food. It did not agree with me. I don't do mystery like things inside. When I got a plate of pierogies, it was like difficult because there would be like 3 that I would eat and 7 that I wouldn't, and I would be like cutting them in half and sniffing them, and it was not pleasant. I did not enjoy it, so I
Innes
mostly stuck to like. I'm the whitest white bread of food people on the planet. I really struggle with food. It's just a bad experience for me all around. For as much as I enjoy eating, I do not enjoy eating a diverse range of things, and it's a real problem, but one that I am not really equipped to deal with. So I did not eat a ton of Polish food, unfortunately. Poland, who is your favorite? What is your favorite Innis? I assume it's like the music guy that comes up if you actually Google my name. I don't know.
For
Now
me,
I gotta
it's the-
Google this.
It's the Diablo 4 boss that I died to multiple times trying to kill.
So I have never killed Jeremy, so that is I understand why he would prefer the other guy to me.
Technically, Innes, you're the first result. Innes Wilson, the person for Freightliner, is the second result.
Oh hell yeah, I've gone up.
So things get weird here because when I search for Innis, we have a road named Innis in my city.
You have to search Innis Wilson. Just searching Innis is gonna like
Yeah, I had
like,
to do it.
clothing
I don't think that'll
Clothing
get it
company
any
or the
better
furniture
because
company
I'll
are
just
gonna
get it
come
with
up.
like Wilson's. Oh no, yeah, I gotta. No,
It's Innis Wilson and his opposition is the band. But
I get the Innis Wilson,
hell yeah.
which is an Americana folk rock band from Guelph, Ontario.
That's different to Innis Wilson's Freightliner, which is another Americana folk rock band.
From a
Yes.
different part of Canada.
No, actually, it appears to be. I'm now double checking. It is the same. It's just
Oh.
that they just go by Innis Wilson on Facebook, but on Instagram they are Innis Wilson's Freightliner.
Okay.
That's fine.
Oh, because Freightliner is the name of their album.
Innis Wilson and his opposition is what comes up on YouTube if you search for my name. So, for some drama, do you guys think that strict WT modeling restrictions is needed or wanted by the players? It seems needlessly draconian. I fully agree, and I actually appealed the process in the WTC Captain's chat, and some teams backed me, and a bunch of teams ignored it because they're scared of the refs.
There
I
is.
will say, go for it.
I'm
Jeremy.
assuming Chris is just not there, so
Oh, I was going to say, as an outsider looking at it for the first time, it seems needlessly draconian. I get setting a standard because some of the models that you see in that modeling chat are not good representations of the models they're supposed to represent. But a lot of them are like very clearly like good enough under 99% of circumstances that there's no reason why it should be. But also, WYSIWYG is kind of a myth a little bit. As long as it's not confusing, it's usually fine.
Yeah.
get
So
the WG where WYSIWYG is if your demo charge print doesn't have a knife when it should have a knife, it's not legal. And that one was the one that drove me nuts. I was like, the model doesn't have a knife on the real model. How the fuck are you going to make him have a knife?
Yeah. So my general feelings on this is that there does need to be a modeling standard. We should hold the hobby to a fairly high standard, especially the WTC. The intention behind all of this is to minimize confusion at the table. However, it does feel like it's gotten a little too far. especially with some of the requirements, where one of the requirements in the model submission guideline is to have a picture of the model that you want to represent next to the picture of the model that you are using, which for many people is, look, I converted an exaction squad because I can't buy them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nobody's
it was
ever
going to be
gonna
real fun seeing
know.
people trying to get the Lion this year if that was a unit that was viable.
Yeah, actually,
It's-
that would have been a
it's
huge challenge.
terrible.
I think that and especially like exaction squads, I'm pretty sure that nearly every single national team is going to have 1 to 2 of them in their armies, in their like armies somewhere, and
100%.
most countries can't find them or can't get them, so they're converting them, printing them, whatnot, and having them approved. And it's just like, look, it's a guardsman-sized marine with a shotgun.
The Thousand Sun
Nobody's gonna
Sorcerer one is
confuse-
wild to me for what it's worth. Being like, the Thousand Sun Sorcerer that in the app is just like an Exalted Sorcerer model. No, that needs to be the Chaos Space Marine Sorcerer on a Fire Mill base. It's like, what the fuck, guys? No
Yeah,
one
you
has
can't use
ever
the Exalted
used that
Sorcerer
model.
kit to make a guy not on a disc and be like, no, this is what you use. Like, yeah, so they're
Despite that being
definitely
the thing it recommends in the app for you to use. Yeah.
correct. Although on the website it does say to use the Chaos Sorcerer for Thousand Suns, but yeah, it's there needs to be a bit more consistency. But I think that part of the challenge for sure is how quickly the meta. Well, it's not stable, but how quickly we've had to adapt to 10th edition and how quickly a lot of things have changed means that some armies are scrambling for models that you just can't get. Same thing happened last year, but to a lesser degree. I do feel that they're being stricter this year and not always in the best way. But I will have to hand it to them. The judges are doing what is effectively a thankless job. They are putting in a lot of effort. Maybe if we had clearer guidelines, they wouldn't have to put in as much effort.
I do wish more
I
people would
think-
follow the
yeah.
instructions as well. That's
Yes,
that
the
would
number
be
of people that have submitted without instructions. Bruno.
Okay. How sad do you think it is that your average Elder player is sleeping on Wraithguard? Are Elder players sleeping on Wraithguard? That
They
doesn't
definitely
sound
are
like
not.
it.
All I know is I
Um,
traumatized Derek with Wraithguard.
Something about Diablo 4. What are your wildest hopes for the FAQ this week? I have no hopes for the FAQ this week, Paul. I'm
It'll
really
be
sorry.
typo fixes and maybe a handful of mechanical clarifications at best. Because
Surprise
that's what
balance
they
patch.
That would be wonderful. I am not in any way.
I mean, there
hoping
is
for
always
like-
the let's go for chaos 2 days before list sub if it comes out tomorrow. But
I'd be there for it. I
Would
think that'd be
WTC
fun.
take that 2 days before list sub?
I think so. I think people
yeah,
would.
they've made it clear the rules deadline is Friday at 11:59 GMT, which is the exact same deadline as the list sub.
Just gonna email a bunch of people and be like, yes, do it.
What do you think about FLG's homebrew towering rule? It seems fine.
Seems
Remove the
fine. We
rule.
talked about the impact on
fine.
knights. We'll see if things don't otherwise change in the meta and FLG continues to use it. We'll continue doing the comparison as we add more events to see if it causes a meaningful change for specifically Eldari and Imperial Knights.
If towering was no longer a thing, do you think the new GW train formats would be genuinely good? No idea.
I already think they're genuinely good, even with towering being where it's at. Knights performed about the same, maybe within a couple percentage points on the Tacoma terrain as anyone else. We had 360 players there.
What was like? I get that you're like, sure, Knights performed the same, but what was the go first win rate versus the go second win rate? What was the win rate into factions that weren't Eldar and Custodes that can't hang with them
So-
on non-towering?
I don't know what the go first win rate for Knights was, but I know that the good go first rate for the event, of which I think it was like 15% Knight players or something crazy like that, was 50%.
Sure, but like, how much of that's just the first turn rolling is like being a coin flip? Like, you just go first or you go second, right?
No, like the go first win rate was 50%.
Yeah, but you know, if there's 50% of the meta is Knight players, 50% of the Knight players are going to go second and lose, and 50% are going to go first and win. That's still a 50% win rate, but that's also not
Yeah.
balanced.
Yeah,
So,
it's
like,
something
there's
to
no
look
way
at.
to know what that, like, does every Knight matchup just end in a coin flip? Like,
I don't say
no.
there's no way to know. It just requires more work to know.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just saying, like, it's impossible to say that because the Knight win rate didn't change much that it's healthy. All it could be is a normalization towards the mean, where a bunch of factions that could suddenly couldn't hang with them, but also could just rip Knights to bits if they go first.
Yeah, fair.
With the very open terrain format. Like, there's you know, it's very difficult to make an assumption off of that based on very little data. Bunch of random garbage questions. Barbie or Oppenheimer?
Both.
Both probably, but I honestly haven't been able to see either. I've heard really good things about both movies.
Same.
I have a history buff who like worked in a museum and whatnot, who is obsessed about historical accuracy. Do like a 3-page review of Oppenheimer, and I read it all. I was like, he's actually really happy with this. Okay, I should go see it. But I have no free time to go see movies, so
I think I'm going to go and see Oppenheimer this weekend. My sister's home from England for a week, so we're going to go and see it. But she's already seen Barbie, so I'm probably not going to go and see Barbie.
yeah.
I'll maybe catch that when it like hits streaming platforms or something, or I'll go and. But like between now and WTC, I'm going to have time for one, and Oppenheimer seems more my speed. So
I've heard really good things about it. So
yeah, Barbie looks fun as well. It just
I tried to see it this last weekend.
And could you think of any
I tried to see it
examples?
this last weekend. It was
Sorry.
sold out.
it was sold out.
It was sold
Nice.
out.
I did see some stats that it's like the 5th biggest opening weekend of all time for like 2 films, and it was
Yeah.
like the biggest second. Like Oppenheimer was like the second biggest debut, like the biggest second film of all time, and stuff like that. Like it did really well on stats.
Which, good for them.
Is a good sign. Yeah, it's really cool to see 2 original films hanging and doing really well. And then the last one is from Tomek of, can you think of any examples of Fair Play Award worthy moments at the WTC? I am going to be honest, I didn't spend a whole bunch of time like observing other things at WTC, and I didn't hear a ton of stories about it, but so I don't feel like I have a great answer for this.
Yeah, I can't say that I do either. Like I watched a lot more games because I was coaching, but at the same time, it was always focused on. There was very little, when you were.
I would definitely say
that.
Olivier and Jaime's game from the War Masters semifinals was really, really well done. Where Jaime ended up timing out, and Olivier gave him time to like finish out the game because he didn't want to win that way. But that was in the singles; it wasn't in the teams, so it's hard to be like. But there was definitely some really cool moments there. Right. Anything super interesting in the chat? My chat is actually frozen. I've not seen anything for the past 20 minutes. So unless
Mine also is frozen. I'll open YouTube real quick. Give me 2 seconds.
I don't know if like the live viewers, maybe the YouTube feed is broken on StreamYard because the live viewers hasn't changed.
It is frozen. Yeah. So there's a bunch of stuff in it. There's not questions. legalize Sprout is one of them, which I agree with wholeheartedly. We should legalize Sprout. Somebody's asking about the weaponization of microwave tea, which is Alex, who is crashing on my couch after WTC on his like worldwide tour. And I'm going to microwave him tea at some point during his stay. Just saying. Just putting it out there. The top win percent armies obviously need fixed, but how does GW fix the Necron unkillable unit problem?
Well, I mean, the first thing that you do is you errata that you can't reanimate crypto thralls.
I was going to say that you actually make it so crypto thralls can't join units with Cryptex, that they can only join Cryptex, but not with Cryptex to units, because that causes part of the problem.
I would not let them join the Glitch Guard, and you'd probably be fine. But
yeah, that's what I was.
For me, I would.
I think a single iteration of crypto thralls is fine. It's when you've killed the same crypto thrall 12 times that it becomes an issue.
Death every time.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things I would make the Necrons, but broadly, I just think that like Reanimator probably needs to be like a 6-inch aura or need line of sight or both. The -1 to wound on Lich Guard should probably only be against strength higher than toughness, so it doesn't work on like the fact that it works on strength 4 weapons is bonkers for the resilience of that squad.
Yeah.
I don't think Catan should be able to take fucking the enhancements. Get that shit out of here.
Even that good, man. Like
I think that one's fine because
it's a 300-point unit, man. Like chill.
It's not even 300 points actually.
It's 290 base, and then is it not like 290 base? And then you
it's 280 plus 10 for the ablator.
So that really probably shouldn't be 10 points. I'll give you that. It probably should be 10 points. But.
Well, if that's the only, if you can't take it on that, then it's worth 10 points.
Yes, I agree.
Really
there.
Benefits that much from a 4-up Feel No Pain with all of the other leader in shenanigans that you have. So
sure.
But yeah, if they take away that ability, then give it reanimation protocols to the Transcend and you're done. It doesn't have reanimation protocols.
I know. I'm just thinking, I was trying to think about the math of it in my head from half damage with reanimation protocols to regenerate every turn. And
well, I mean, all the other Satans have half damage and reanimation protocols.
And then it should just have it, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. But right now, if it did,
it should definitely not have all 3 of those things at once. Yes.
Please no.
My brain was like trying to work through one thing at a time.
Yeah, that thing definitely doesn't need reanimation protocols. Cool. That is basically all I have. Does anybody else have anything else? Given that we've been running for almost 2 hours and we're ostensibly only meant to run for 90 minutes.
I think we can be done.
Yep.
Cool. I hope this has conveyed some part of how hyped we are all for WTC. Obviously, next week we're going to be live with the we'll have all the lists and we'll have all the cool stuff. I think the goal is to try and do the fantasy draft live on air next week, because I think it's just better for engagement. And then I will try and do my best to get like a digital version that everybody can take part in online, and we may try and chuck like a small prize of that again this year. But I'll see what happens on terms of like getting that done. Obviously, I'm going to be super busy between WTC and that. So I think live on air, we're going to try and do our fantasy draft, and we may allow chat to participate or something like that. I don't know. We'll see what we can do for that. But otherwise, there'll be an online version that people can take part in for the StatCheck Discord. Otherwise, thank you so much, everybody, for being here with us for another almost 2 hours of StatCheck content. We really appreciate you guys all being here. If you've enjoyed the show, please do check out patreon.com/StatCheck. That's the best place to support us. Get access to our Patreon Discord where you can ask all the wonderful questions that we have answered today, and be part of our community, which is really awesome. We are almost done with the round robin stage of the Vibe Check League, which is ending pretty soon. Please do check out our sponsor, red-dragon.ca, for all of your 40k and other various hobby needs. And if you're one of our patrons, you can also get access to our 15% discount code. Do check out the other shows on the network. That's End of the Matrix and XM1. And check out stat-check.com/coaching for all your coaching needs from myself and Typhus. It's been great having you guys all here for another week. We will catch you next week for post-WTC list reveal awesomeness, and we can see which teams have shot the bed and which teams have brought Votan. I think it's going to be incredible. We'll have pods. If you thought the shit talking was good when we don't know anything, imagine how bad it's going to be when we know everything and when Anthony's here. It's going to be so good. I'm also going to try and schedule another newcomer show for people who've not done. For anybody who didn't catch last year, I did a newcomer show with a bunch of people who were attending the event for the first time. The goal is to do the same thing again this year, but I need to reach out and find a bunch of people for that, and I will do my best, but it's getting pretty short notice now. But hopefully that will be next week as well. With all that said, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Have a great week. Good luck at any tournaments you're at. Nathan, I hope you lose every single game at Capital Clash, or win a golden ticket, one of the two. Like, I really don't care which, as long as it's funny. Everybody, thank you. And Nathan, you can roll us out.
Bye-bye.
You gonna hit the button, or